Good morning. What is astrology? Oh, we have probably all got versions of where that term may have come from, what it means now, where it may be headed. I would like to begin today's consideration with a look at this topic from the perspective of, I have been doing astrology for 56 plus years. And there are versions of what it is that surface when that term astrology appears in any particular context. It's become, or maybe I should say it's becoming ever more popular in many circles to throw out a sun sign. Where is the sun? Well, the sun right now, it's approaching the very end of Pisces. We'll get to that. But each of us has the sun in a particular one of the 12 signs. And there are certain characteristics that each of the signs of the zodiac lean into. We'll put it that way. The question arises, can astrology predict the future? There are versions of this astrological tool that would definitely indicate that as a possibility. I personally lean more or am more inclined toward seeing trends. And let me give you just a hypothetical example. Oh no, let's just go look at the chart. So, here's a chart for today, Sunday the 15th. Is today the 15th? Yep, today's the 15th. If we look at, let's take a planet that, got some particular energetics to it. Mars, the god of war, amongst other things, but definitely a driven kind of energy. And the placement of Mars in any particular chart brings a focus to that general region of the chart to say, can you sense or feel, some possibly discomfort because, you get here's an image for you, a hunting dog. He's on the hunt with his master, and he can, they're hunting quail or duck or geese or whatever they're hunting, and the dog is sitting there right beside his master, and you can kind of see his feet getting agitated and comfortable. He says, come on, I need to go chase something. This is Mars. This is an active kind of energy to it. The dog is waiting for that moment. That's one version of Mars. Not the same that it would be for everybody. I mean, this particular Mars that we're looking at, it's in Pisces. Pisces is a sign that, leans into a much deeper and more profound connection to one's spiritual essence. It's also the very last sign of the zodiac, before the first sign, Aries, when Pisces is emphasized, which it has been for the past month. Because you can kind of see the sun right here, 28.5 degrees. During this upcoming week, the sun is going to shift. We're going to have to change hats from the Piscean zone into the Aries zone. But just looking at the Piscean energy and seeing it from the perspective of a culmination of a process or cycle. And the cycle in this case is from beginning at Aries. Not everybody tunes into this. We have January 1st, the first of the year. Well, that's a calendar thing, an invention of the human mind. Whereas, the winter solstice, December 21st, is a demarcation in the life dance of the planetary cycle of the sun, going from fall kind of energies into winter. Days are as short as they can be at the winter solstice. The sun's standing still. And then winter comes. The cold sets in. Or if you happen to be in the southern hemisphere, the heat begins to build. The beginning of this cycle, and it proceeds around. Every year, the sun moves from Aries into Taurus to Gemini, Cancer, Leo, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and back to Pisces again. Another ending of that particular cyclic movement of our sun. So there's a culmination of kind of energies that Pisces represents. Here's our Mars. Our Mars is, doing its dance through this last sign. You can, there's our dog. It wants to go, but in Pisces, that Martian energy may have some level of, is it trepidation? And this could be a result of the fact that I'm impulse to move forward. But from the Piscean perspective, what does that mean? There's an unknown factor in this. I'm ready to leap. I don't know what I'm leaping into. Am I ready? This is, our spiritual questioning as to, who am I? What is it that I am about in this moment? And what am I about to step into? The realm of Pisces. Not easy to predict, a future experience. Mars is the ruler of Aries. Pisces is in the realm, Mars is in the realm of Pisces. Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, the traditional ruler. And as such, Jupiter has just turned direct, just this week that we're culminating right now. And so, what does Jupiter represent? Jupiter is really never, ever about holding oneself back or trying to think small. Jupiter, our largest planet in the solar system, has always this urge to, discover what more is there. I don't want to think small about this. I need more information. I need more of anything. Jupiter, as the ruler of Pisces, is feeding to this particular Mars right now that kind of energy that says, don't hold yourself back. There's something to discover, but you need to take a step forward in order for that particular page to turn in the life dance. Before I stepped onto the astrological plane for today, I cast my, I'm trying to get them all lined up here. I cast my astrological dice. Let's see if you can see that. Hang on. Doop, 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 doop. I'm going to play this so you can actually see it. I got the moon in Aquarius in the first house. Sometimes the experience of life has that throwing the dice kind of energy where, I didn't know what to expect in this next moment. So I cast the dice to see, was there some kind of a divinatory initiation process that I could pay attention to. Well, we're talking here the moon. What is it that I feel like? And an Aquarian moon. The Aquarian moon is when I engage in any social situation, can I be inventive enough to feel into the energy of the group, this is Aquarius, in such a way that we might together compare notes in this invitational, in this exploratory, in this experimental space, and invent something that each of us in some fashion is going to feel in the experience. And it's in the first house, according to the dice. First house is, hello world, here I am. I have arrived. It's the I am moment, which, in some sense, it doesn't come pre-programmed at that point. It's new. There's an experience that's waiting to awaken. And you could kind of say, there's our Mars again. Kind of like that dog sitting beside the hunter, waiting with anticipation, feet, pounding on the ground. I want to go, I want to go, I want to go. This is kind of the Aryan energy. So that Aquarian moon in the first house is, it wants to leap forward into first house, something new. Does it know what it is? No, but it feels it. It senses this possibility of something needing to awaken. Oh, before I go here, I also drew a card from my mystical shamanic oracle deck to see what energy might be wanting to join in, if you will, into today's energy consideration as we look. And this is the card that came up. Jaguar. in the book that came with this deck, I'm going to just read you a little bit about Jaguar. The Jaguar is the protector of all life in the Amazon. And in times of fear, she brings courage and certainty. Jaguar is at the top of the food chain and never becomes prey. With great stealth, she can track her mark from a distance and not be seen or heard. She moves gracefully through the jungle, relishing the abundance of the rainforest, fearless and at ease. Jaguar knows the ways beyond death and is the master of the shadows, blending invisibly between light and dark, night and day. The invitation. Jaguar calls you to explore beyond the walls that confine you, to go outside your normal routine, to push your limits and boundaries. She is delivering an invitation from your own future to investigate the unknown, to venture into the mystery and the dark places you have been reluctant to explore. Toss all caution to the wind. Know that your Jaguar instinct will serve you well. Anyway, this is the kind of energy that this day, is asking me to awaken within each of us as we move through those last degrees of Pisces, ready to change hats, shift from the experience of collaborating. All that we learned during this last annual cycle of the sun into a format or a context that is like a brand new seed that has been forming and approaching that moment when it's going to be planted into the next new soil of creation, Aries, to see what is going to grow from what it is that we created during our last cycle. Are we aiming to have this be a repetition of everything that we have gone through? Or might we have gleaned insight into appropriateness of what it is that we need to hang on to and what it is that we need to jettison and let go of, so that something brand new has the opportunity to dance with us, utilizing our essence in a new fashion. This week, a couple things are going to happen. Speaking of ends of cycles and new cycles coming and going, as we go through the week, you'll see the moon here. Moon, our fast mover, 12 to 13 degrees a day, shifts as it goes through Aquarius. Here it is on Monday. It's going to end up, it's Aquarius. It's going to go into, you guessed it, Pisces. And approaching the sun, a new cycle is there waiting to awaken for us, which happens at every new moon. We've made it to Pisces. It's Tuesday, a Mars day. Well, Mars is in Pisces. Do you sense the possibility of those dogs' feet, antsy to leap forward into the unknown? It's there. Wednesday comes along. We have the new moon on this day at 28 degrees of Pisces. The Sabian symbol for this reads, a light breaking into many colors as it passes through a prism. Now, each new moon is opportunity for us to set an intention for the development of a new particular direction based on that sun-moon connection, asking us, awake, be adventurous. And this is in Pisces. How is your spiritual connection going? The keynote for this particular new moon reads, the analytical power of the mind necessary for the formulation of life processes in their many aspects. And further reading, cycles of existence begin in unity. There's our sun and moon sitting together, unity, and end in what I have called multi-unity, at the stage of consummation that the many individual differences are totaled. They constitute a sum. Within that sum, a unified total, the inevitability of the future process of differentiation is implied, because every cycle leaves a mass of waste products, slowly returning to the unconscious state of chemical matter, the humus. What this symbol tells us is that unity will always break again into multiplicity. The prism, it's always there. There is no absolute unity. How about that for a thought? If anything could be called absolute, it is the relationship between the one in capitals and the many in capitals. I want to add one more Sabian symbol into this. And what this is for is it's for our 8 degrees of Pisces, which is where Mercury is. But the north node of the moon has been sitting at 8 degrees for a while. Mars went over it when it was there. Mercury is basically sitting on it right now, as Mercury also is about to turn direct at it. You guessed it, 8 degrees. The flavor of always in any north nodal consideration is that there are opportunities awaiting awakening, and the north node sits at a point being that invitation for something to present itself. It's going to take our application to this process in order for it to develop. But the north node it's like a destiny line opportunity. Mercury having been retrograde now for three weeks, is turning direct on this north node at 8 degrees of Pisces. You might want to ask yourself, have I utilized this retrograde mercurial cycle effectively enough as an investigative opportunity into Pisces, a potentially deeper version of what it is that I might grok, that spirit part of me wants to present. Notice Mercury, how we think, how we communicate, presentation, the words that want to leap off the tongue sometimes prematurely. We've been going through a Mercury retrograde cycle where hopefully you've been paying attention and utilized this opportunity to develop at a deep spiritual perspective what it is that your words might carry more potently as a reflection of that deeper spiritual part of you that has been, for the last 3 weeks, plumbing the depths of that part of you that is your core. Mercury going direct right on this north nodal moon. Are you going to be ready for that opportunity? The Sabian symbol for that particular degree reads, a jockey spurs his horse, intent on outdistancing his rivals. The keynote, intense mobilization of energy and skill in the drive for success in any social performance affected by the competitive spirit. And further, since the end of the archaic ages and the stressing of individualism, especially in our American society, which worships the material images of success, the desire to win any kind of race, engenders an often feverish release of energy controlled by technical skill and long practice. Whenever this symbol, or wherever this symbol is found, it indicates the need to spur one's total being toward speedy attainment of whatever goal it may be. The key word, self-quickening. I would add a note of caution in that whenever a planet stations, changing between retrograde and direct, or vice versa, it hovers at a particular degree for a while. Mercury being as fast as it is, it's still going to be at this 8 degrees for, a couple, 3-4 days. And this is the culmination of that Mercury retrograde cycle. And as much as that driven energy that was expressed in that Sabian symbol, wanting to have you leap forward and say the things that you have been contemplating for the last 3 weeks of this Mercury retrograde cycle in the deep oceanic level of spiritual awareness that Pisces is, patience is probably a good plan. Don't rush out, in other words, with the language that has shown up on your doorstep as being probably seemingly very vital to what it is that you need to accomplish. Remember, it's you that senses this drive for accomplishment now, which, is going to be different for each one of us. Now, we've all gone through this same Mercurial retrograde dance in Pisces, but not everybody's Pisces is in the same location in their charts. So, in this particular chart, which is basically an Aries 0 degrees equal house whole sign chart, it has a certain 12th house flavor to it. And a 12th house would be very different from a person who happened to have their Pisces in, let's say, their 7th house, the realm of partnership. And this whole reflective Mercurial retrograde dance has been transpiring in the realm of how is it that they get along with others that is been set on their table. And for that person or those persons that have that 7th house flavor, when Mercury turns direct, utilize that same caution that I was indicating with how you engage with others at this time. They may not instantly be able to grok, the potentially deeper spiritual version of what partnership could mean between the two of you. And each chart is going to have a variance depending on where this particular new moon, Mercury turning direct, is transpiring. I know that's a lot to get through. And we've gotten ourselves to Wednesday. Oh, yeah. That was the new moon. Welcome. In a way, that is kind of a changing of the hats, too. And this is, kind of a pre-preparation step getting ready for the sun to shift between Pisces and Aries. Oh, back a day. On this day, Wednesday, the 18th, Venus plodding its way along in the sign of Aries. We were talking about the possibility of that 7th house Piscean person waking up to, what could be new in that exchange of energy that I have with others. Ruled by, you guessed it, Venus. Well, Venus is in Aries right now. And that kind of Venus might have just a wee bit less patience in what it is that is driving them. But this Pisces, this Libra, this Venus, Mercury's still retrograde today. It doesn't go direct yet. Is in an exact square to Jupiter, the ruler of, we've already said it, Pisces. So Mars, the ruler of Aries, is in that Pisces ruled by this Jupiter, which Venus is squaring. And square aspects, what can I say? They bring with them the potential for some baggage. And the kind of baggage that a square represents is that the energy of these elements, in this case fire, Aries, and water, Cancer, are such that they aren't inclined or intended to easily engage energetically with one another. Fire and water. Water has the ability to put fire out. Fire has the ability to evaporate water and change its chemical compounds. This is how squares work. They do not and are not essentially inclined to want to work effectively with one another, and so they're given, which is an unfortunate characteristic trait of being bad aspects. Well, they aren't. They're just a little bit more challenging. They still are, talking with one another. This Venus and Jupiter are talking with one another, and Jupiter, the ruler of Pisces, is influencing Mars up in the sign of Pisces, where Venus is, essentially exalted, so that Mars is giving its energy, Mars is giving its energy to the Venus, saying, don't be so hard on yourself. There is the potential for some kind of an outworking to transpire, but you need to expand the vision capability of what wants to put in an appearance as this square aspect is transpiring. Okay, come the 20th. The hats. Yes, the shifting of the hats. The sun has just come from its spicy and deep oceanic watery space into the sign of Aries. This is the spring equinox. What is the spring equinox? In a way, it has a capacity that could easily be portrayed as the beginning of the year, unlike January 1st. This equinox, the day and the night are of equal time. There's a balance in play here between the driven daily desire to accomplish something and the nighttime requirement to refresh one's batteries and be rebirthed into a new form that is required for the next new moment. The sun going into Aries at this time it's brand new. It is an awakening to a new moment, a new energy just coming from that watery zone. We were just talking about that square between Venus and Jupiter, but from this deep, penetrating, oceanic level of awareness into a Martian Aryan energy that has those restless dog feet ready to charge forth into what? Now it's into an Aries experience. Try and hold the dog back. The trigger's pulled. The boom of the gun goes. A bird plummets to the back down to the pond where it was, and the dog is off like a rocket. It knows what it needs to do. Well, the irony of this particular shift from the human perspective is this is a new moment. But to say you know what to do, not the habit of the dog. This is an invitation to awaken yourself to being that newly planted seed. You're still below the ground. You can feel the pull of the sun saying, come on up. I want to give you this energetic experience of expressing yourself in a new being. The key words for Aries: a warrior, a leader, an initiator, adventurer, hero, light bearer, pioneer. These energies are nibbling at our heels as the sun moves into Aries. And you will notice, as you look at this chart, Aries is very populated. There's a lot of Aryan energy going on right now. We've got the sun, Neptune, Saturn, Venus, the moon, Eris, Chiron. Don't worry about the ascendant, because the ascendant is a function of a 24-hour clock that varies depending on where you are on the planet. Aries has arrived. This is Friday. It's a Venus day, and Venus, which recently formed that direct square with Jupiter, still being driven by that Martian Pisces energy. Right there in the middle of Aries. It would probably behoove us with this Aryan Venus to make sure that we treat one another with enough respect, even though we may egg each other on to be more. Have the patience to listen to one another in a way that is an invitation for something that has not percolated to the surface or awakened yet, but is right there on the cusp of doing so. When we get to Saturday, the sun is right there with Neptune. And again, we could draw in our Aries ruler, Mars, being influenced by Jupiter, because it's right there. It's only a few minutes away from an exact trine. A trine is a 120-degree aspect, and it is said, these are water elements. They speak to each other rather fluently and effectively. There's a harmony in what it is that is being shared. So this Mars energy in trine to Jupiter is influencing all of the Aries signatures. It's going to require something from each one of us to really and effectively tune into the requirement of patience at this time. The sun conjunct to Neptune on Saturday, right off the bat, we've entered and put our new hat on in the sign of Aries. Neptune has a modern affinity to the sign of Pisces. So Mars still in Pisces and directing the energies of Aries. Asks us, are you clear enough with what it is that you sense and are feeling driven by to erupt your seed essence above the surface? And is it potentially just a wee bit too early in the spring? There are still frosts that may show up to challenge, wither, kill, if you will, that new fresh sprouting energy. I would insist that patience is still required. That Piscean perspective, Neptune we're talking about, conjunct the sun, says that I can use my creative imagination and still formulate what it is that I want to grow into before I poke my head above the surface of the soil, and hold on to that so that when the soil is finally broached and I reach out to say hello to the sun in person, it is not too early. There's been the percolating, the permutation of a thought process that energetically is in place for the awakening of this Aries element to such an extent that it means something. I may not know what that is yet, but the substance of what it is that I have developed up to this point is grounded enough that I can trust it. That's all I'm going to share for you for this week. I've given you probably more than enough to contemplate. And we go back to the first question. What is astrology? Astrology is an energetic conversation between energy beings. We are energy beings. The earth is an energy being. The sun, dynamic energy being. All the planets are energy beings. The whole entire universe is a conglomeration of energy articulation that is in flux all the time. And from the astrological perspective, we're invited to tune in to the celestial conversation and, with practice, be a willing participant here on earth in what it is that this conversation is inviting us to awaken to. And each of us is going to be influenced and influence where that conversation might take us in the next moment. Not with a pre-programmed version that says this means that, therefore this is the result. No, this means that the next result will depend on what it is that you, as a spiritual being, are willing to awaken to. And this awakening from Pisces going into Aries right now is that invitation to be more than you thought you could be, to tune into your spiritual core in such fashion that your engagement with all of life is that new awakening experience. Thank you. That's all I got for this week. Happy trails and welcome to Aries.